All right, what is going on? Oh, my camera's a little crooked here. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Monday, November 17th. My name is Everett DeLorme, and this is the Volleyball Journal. And let's talk about some volleyball. It has been a busy weekend full of volleyball since I saw you guys last on Friday, November 14th. If you haven't checked out that episode, it's already up, of course, on YouTube and everywhere else you can find your online podcasts. And lots and lots of stuff going down this weekend. We had some big matches in Italy on both the men's and the women's side. We had some huge matches in the PlusLiga for Poland. The women's Sultanar Ligi in Turkey has started back up again. And of course, we had a full slate of matches in Japan as well. So we're going to talk about all of that and everything else. But before we get into that, I do want to address all of the drama going on in the Discord right now. I know I haven't addressed it yet in the Discord. I wanted to ask a few people kind of what was going down because I wasn't around for most of it. And I will be addressing it directly in the Discord. But I have to say, I'm very disappointed in a lot of people on either sides of the discussion. The whole point of the Discord was for a place for people to discuss volleyball. And it has no longer become a volleyball discussion. And now we are stooping to the levels of our volleyball. And I really don't like that. I really don't. So I will be addressing that directly. And that's all I'm going to say about that to start things off. So let's talk about some actual volleyball, some stuff going on this weekend. We're going to start in Italy with the men because we had some spicy matchups this weekend, most notably Verona making a trip to Perugia to take on the undefeated Sir Safety Perugia. And man, this might have been one of the best matches so far this season. Definitely in the PlusLiga, not in the PlusLiga, I apologize, in the Lega Volley, my opinion. This was a really good match, both teams going toe-to-toe, and Verona coming out and really just showing us that they're for real. Really showing us that they are amongst the elite teams this year by taking down the previously undefeated Perugia in a 5-set match. Verona won the opener 25-23. Then Perugia won the second 25-17. Verona in the third 25-23. Perugia in the fourth 25-16. And then it was 25-15 in the fifth, for Verona. Getting into it, I thought that this was a huge match for both of these teams. I thought that Verona especially really showed up well. They really proved that they are an elite team in this league, and I'm starting to believe in them. I'm starting to believe in them a little bit more. But as I said in my preview, that I do think that they're going to have to show me that they can do this, that they can get these wins later on in the year, that they can pick up these wins against some of the best teams, not only in this league, but in the world when it comes crunch time in March and in May, right? At the end of the season and in playoffs. And now we're still far away from that. And I think that Verona has shown us, that they have the ability to bounce back, right? They got pretty nicely planted and donged last week by Lube, and they were able to really turn around and play a really, really good game. And on the other side of the net, I do think that there is a few question marks, especially considering Perugia's offense. They're having some problems scoring, and I actually think I'm going to make an entire video just breaking it down because I spent the morning kind of looking over some volumetrics footage and baseline stuff just to get a good grasp of what was happening with Perugia's offense. And I don't think their offense is nearly as good as some people think it is. And I don't think it's for the reasons that some people say it is either, right? I think that there's a lot of heat right now on the outsides, on Semeniuk, on Ishikawa, on Plotnitsky. I mean, we had some people in the Discord calling them trash, which is just straight up wrong. And yeah, I think I'm going to break that down specifically. But this was a really good matchup on either side of the net. Darlin ended up being the MVP. He had 24 points in this one. He was 18 for 27. He had a 67%. He also had 5 aces. 5 aces for Darlin, 5 aces for Keita. And this was a much better serving match from Verona overall compared to what we saw last week against Lube. They were really putting some pressure on Perugia. And It's interesting when you watch Perugia play, because to me, they've got a couple of really good passers in Semeniuk and Plotnitsky. And then they've got a couple of iffier passers in Ishikawa and Kolachi. And then Luki Dori just asked in the chat, is Kolachi starting to hold them back? And honestly, I think so. I think Kolachi is starting to hold this team back, and I'm not entirely sure if he can play against some of these big teams and against some of these big serves anymore. I think Perugia is a little lucky that Lube had an off match in the second match of their season this year, and they were able to come away with the win. So I would be interested to see how Marco Gugini looks in this lineup, because right now, Perugia, they have one solid outside who's able to kind of do a little bit of everything, and that's Kamil Semeniuk, right? He's able to pass and he's able to hit decently well. Ishikawa actually is one of their best offensive outsides. He was 8 for 14 in this one. He hit a 57%, while Plotnitsky passed really well at a 67% positive, but was only 3 for 10 overall offensively. And what I would love to be able to break down when I do a film study on Perugia is the fact that their offense is so inside. And now I don't know if this is a byproduct of Gianelli's setting or if this is how Lorenzetti wants to set the offense, but they're hitting that ball usually about a meter inside the antenna. And it just allows teams like Verona was able to get touches on Perugia all afternoon long, and they're able to convert them. Now, Verona, surprisingly, is actually one of the best defensive teams in the league. They have one of the biggest one of the highest dig percentages when I was breaking it down in Volleymetrics. And they also convert their digs to kills at a really high rate. And now I think this is for a few reasons. A, I think that especially in this match that their block was able to touch a lot of balls. There wasn't a lot of clean kills for Perugia on their side of the net, whereas Verona was slowing a lot of things down. And then also, I think that Verona's defensive positioning might be one of the things that Fabio Soli has focused on the most, because there's a few times when, especially D'Amico is maybe out of position, and immediately, Keita Mosic or Micah Christensen are going over and having a discussion, and they're pretty animated about it. So it seems to me like Soli has really implemented a really good defensive strategy, and I think it's working for them, right? They know that they're not the best passing team, although they were pretty good on this day. They passed 46% as a team. Only 17% perfect. But when you have a setter like Micah Christensen, if you're just passing that ball positively, right? If you're just putting that ball in a good position and you have the ability to run the offense all together. Now, I do think that on a day like today, like a day like Sunday, Verona's serving was outstanding. They put so much pressure on Perugia. And as I've mentioned before, Perugia is a team that can really release things by running that middle. Like especially with Lozère, they can really run that middle. And they really weren't able to against Verona in this match. But ultimately, too, I just think that Verona's defense is really, really good. They're converting they're digging about 60% of the shots that are coming to them that they're able to touch, which is, in my opinion, huge, right? It's amongst the highest in the Lega Volley this year. And that's where I really think they're able to hang their hat on right now. Sure, their serving isn't great. Their passing isn't that great, but they're able to keep the ball alive and still keep the ball going. But Verona is a very, very aggressive team. They're going to come at you with full force. And that's kind of why I think you see in the sets that Perugia wins, it's because they fully just took over the match in those moments, right? They won 17 and 16, whereas the wins for Verona were 23, 23, and 12. So it just creates a little bit more of a even playing field. Now, Wasim Bentara has been fantastic. He continues to lead this team. He was 19 for 27 with his efficiency over 60%, which is absolutely huge. He also had 3 aces in this match, the highest of all Perugia players. But I I kind of want to see, and I think I'm going to break it down for you guys. I want to see an offense that is, I don't think it needs to be as fast as Perugia is trying to run it. And I think that's what's really causing a problem for Semeniuk and Plotnitsky. Like, both of these guys aren't really hitting a lot of balls in system, right? Both of these guys are just like, they're essentially been garbage men in this offense. They're hitting up against 3 blocks a lot. And especially Semeniuk, the only time he's really hitting in system is when he's coming out of the back row. And I think that especially against a team like Verona is a very good blocking team. They only had 7 blocks in this match, but they're really able, as I said before, to get those touches on the balls and slow some things down. Overall, for Semeniuk and Plotnitsky, it was not a great offensive match. 12 for 35 overall with a 200 efficiency. It's just not good enough at this level. But as I said, the sets just aren't really there. Right? They're getting set inside quite a lot, and it makes it really easy for blockers because they're not getting stretched out to that further, that last meter of the court. So the net goes from 9 meters to about 7 with the way that they're running their offense right now. So I think that's going to be one thing that Perugia is going to have to work on long term if they're going to want to get better. But overall, I think that this Verona team is a lot better than I would have expected. Micah is running a fantastic offense, and he has the ability to run that pin to pin. Keita had 21 in this match. As I said, he did have a lot of errors, and Verona did make 13 hitting errors, and they also made 30 serving errors, which kind of kept Perugia in the match as well. Whereas Perugia had 19 serving errors with 7 aces. Verona had 30 serving errors with 10 aces. So there's a big difference there, but Perugia only passed 35% positive and 4% perfect. So it was a bit of a marathon day for Gianelli in this one. So maybe that's also a reason why he wasn't able to run the offense as much as he would have liked. But I do think that this kind of shows that there's it's such a close battle at the top of this league right now with Perugia and Lube and Verona. Now, remember that Perugia beat Lube beat Verona, and now Verona beat Perugia. So we have a bit of a rock, paper, scissors situation going on right now in the Lega Volley, but I absolutely love it. I think it's great. I'm excited to kind of see what is next with these two teams. And just overall, because Perugia is going to be taking on Trentino in this upcoming weekend. And it's kind of crazy that, with some of their losses as of late, although they did win this past week, that Trentino has kind of been lost in the sauce a little bit. They've been a little bit forgotten, even though they are the defending Lega Volley Scudetto champions. So, yeah, I think that overall, it's going to get spicy. And you know what? I may have been wrong about Verona. I may have been wrong. We'll have to see overall. Looks like Keita passed all right this one. Yeah, he did. But then again, I think that we've seen that Perugia isn't necessarily the hardest serving team. They've got some guys who are just kind of putting the ball in with not a huge amount of pressure. I think if they were able to be a little bit more dynamic and, serve the ball a little bit more aggressively, they would find some better success in this one. But overall, great matchup to watch. Now, the next match that was a big surprise, we talked about Lube. Lube went out and got absolutely donged by Piacenza. And this one was one that I didn't even watch. I had some things I had to do yesterday afternoon and just didn't have time to watch it. Now, I had kind of clowned Jem in the Discord because he was saying that it was going to be a spicy matchup, and I was wrong on that. It was a bit of a spicy matchup, and I will have to say, this one was kind of a battle of the slingers between Bonifante and Porro, and Paulo Porro looks really good. The more I watch him, the more I think he is an absolutely elite setter, and I'm starting to wonder if he should maybe be the backup setter behind Gianelli for the Italian national team, because the way he runs this offense is incredible. Doing some digging, I thought that Verona would be the best team in the league in terms of first ball side out, But in fact, it's actually Piacenza. Piacenza has been really, really good in first ball side out this season. And in this match, they only made 3 unforced errors. They hit 57% as a team. They had 7 blocks altogether. 3 of those were Galassi at important parts of this match. And now, despite it being a 3-dong, it was a really close match, 29-27, 28-26, 25-22, all in favor of Piacenza. And now I do have to say that it was it was definitely the worst match that we've seen from Alex Nikolov this year. Only 8 points. He was 7 for 19 in this match. And it was the first time that he hit under 400 all season. He only hit a 36.8% in this match, which just wasn't really good enough. And Lube's offense really struggled in this one. You could tell that they were out of rhythm pretty early. Piacenza's block was very strong. They were touching a lot of balls. And I found that Lube got really one-dimensional. They kept on giving the ball to Alex despite not having the best offensive day. And I was very, very interested in the fact that Lube went and made a sub in the second set. They brought in pretty much the entire bench. They did the double sub with Orduna and Korkardsev. They brought in Poria, and they also brought in Noah Duflos-Rossi and DR. And that lineup brought some juice. They were down by 4 or 5 in the second. I think it was 15-10 in the second, and they were able to bring it all the way back. But both in the first and the second, Lube, came back from a deficit, was able to claw their way back. In the first, they had, regained advantage twice. And both times they were unable to make up for it and unable to close out the set. In both the first and the second, Gianluca Galassi made some really big plays and made some really big blocks to kind of push them past. Also, the duo of Efe Mandaracha and Alessandro Bovalenta is really, really good. These young guys are out there and they are balling. Bovalenta has such a weird, almost elastic shoulder, but it just whips through the ball, and he's able to hit some absolutely ridiculous angles. Just ridiculous angles. And as soon as there's a gap, like his ability to hit cross body, like sharp within the attack line, he's not even hitting a 1-to-1. He's almost hitting like a 1-to-3, like a 1-to-2. He's like, a 2-to-2. I apologize. He's hitting like a 2-to-3 because he's been able to just cut that ball back and really bring it back in. So he's getting really, really deadly, especially with the speed at which Poro runs his offense. And it just really opens up the court. He's able to force Simone and Galassi in so many different situations, and that's exactly kind of what we saw in this one. I thought that Poria was fantastic coming off the bench. He was one of those bench guys that they actually kept in. I just kind of questioned keeping Poria for Botolo and bringing Alex Nikolov back on. To me, it was really obvious that Nikolov just wasn't having his day. And I did talk about this a little bit in my Lega Volley preview, that at some point we're going to see Nikolov drop off a little bit this year because of the summer that he had, because of how good he had to be this summer. At some point this year, he's going to drop off and just be a little bit not as good and just be a little bit less effective just because he's tired, just because he needs a little bit of rest out there. And I would have really liked to see Madej keep Botolo on, keep Poria on, because Poria was out there scoring. Poria was 7 for 8 in this match, but instead you take off Mattia Botolo, who is your best passer, statistically your best passer, and I know offensively he wasn't great. He was 5 for 10, got blocked twice. Lepke really carried the offense. He was 4 for 19. He was the only Lube guy in double digits with 10 points, but I really would have liked to see Lube just keep Nikolov on the bench. It clearly wasn't his day. I know he's usually the best player. Put Poria on, and then maybe they would have been able to get the job done. But instead they weren't able to. So Tough one for Lube. I do think that like some of their pillars, like Bonifante, didn't have the best match. Nikolov, as I said, was bad offensively. It's not that he was bad overall. He just didn't have that same zip that he usually does. And defensively, he was bad. There was a few times where the ball was in his area and he was just kind of missing it. A couple of times where it just hit him altogether and he wasn't able to take care of it. So I just think that this one for Lube, you just chalk it up to a bad match. It was a bad match for Lube, but on the other side of the net, it was a really good match for Piacenza. Like I said, 17 for 28 by Alessandro Bovalenta. He also had 2 blocks and 2 aces in this match. 8 for 23 in aces to errors for Piacenza and only 4 to 14. So they were able to keep their errors down, was Lube, but unfortunately they weren't able to convert and put the same amount of pressure on that they usually did. So that's a really big win for Piacenza moving forward. Here are some of the other results that we had in the Lega Volley this week. Cisterna with a really nice win. They're now at 500 at 3-3. This was a team that I was really doubting this year, but they got a nice 5-set win, including a 37-35 barn burner in the fourth against Modena, and they were down 2-1 to that one. So that was really to save the match for them. 24 points from Filippo Lanza, 24 points, 22 for 36 with 2 blocks overall. You also had F.A. Byram with 19 and Tommaso Guzzo. Now, I thought this team was all going to be Tommaso Barotto, but instead it's the other Tommaso Guzzo, who has really been the guy for them in the opposite position. And so this is a great match overall for Cisterna once again, sitting at 3-3. Modena had some issues with Paul Buchkager in this match. He was only 4 for 9 with 5 points. So they brought on Ahmed Ikbari. And Ikbari, if you remember, he was huge at the World Championships, and he ended up with 24 points for Modena, went 23 for 39. 39 sets coming off the bench is massive. That's so much volume. But they also went away from Amir Tzi Ualu after the first 2 sets and went with Matias Hiraudo out of Argentina. So not a great match overall for Modena. Davis Kiba also had 23. Luca Porro, 11 for 24 for 13 points. But that is a massive win for Cisterna. Also, people are going to have to start realizing that you can't serve Landon Curry. 31 targets. He's passing 61% positive and 29% perfect. Just nailing down that serve receive. And they're going to have to start going elsewhere. You know, whether it's Byram or Filippo Lanza, because I know all you Italians are really doubting the Canadian kid, but he's out there balling, doing some good things. A few other results this week in the Lega Volley. You also had Trentino getting a nice little 3-dong over Monza after they had lost 2 in a row. Micheletto had 14, Teofor had 15, Jordi Ramon had 12, and Jordi Ramon was 12 for 19. And offensively, he has been very, very good, but passing-wise, he's been at the bottom of the elite outsides, along with Ishikawa and Nikolov and Ikeda. For Monza, Christian Padar was the only guy good offensively. He had 16, 15 for 30 overall. Roars had 8. He was only 8 for 21. And Luca Martilla, coming off the bench as well, had 6. One last result from this past week, or actually, sorry, 2 last results. Milano went to 5 with Padova, and Cuneo got a nice win over Grottazzolina, 3-0. And if we look at the standings here, and Otsuka's stat line, honestly, I barely looked at it. Let's see Otsuka's stat line here for Milano. Rager's had 28, as per usual, just keeping up over a 5-point per set average. Otsuka, damn, 20 for 26. Holy! He also passed 55% on 42% targets. Damn! Tatsunori Otsuka. Man, was he the MVP? How is he not the MVP with a stat line like that? Goodness gracious. He had 9 break points and was a plus 17. Whoa! Huge. I may have really underestimated Otsuka because that is massive. That is absolutely massive for the Japanese outside. That's a big one. Now looking at the standings here, not much has changed. Verona has now moved into second, over top of Lube. They have 14 points of a 5-1 record. Perugia is still in first place, even though they suffered their first loss this season. They are first with 6-1, 17 points. Verona's second, 5-1, 14 points. Lube is third, 4-2 with 13. Trentino's fourth, 4-2 with 12. Modena at 3-3 and 11. Piacenza is at 3-3 with 9. And this is where, that point differential makes a difference, because you have Tristerna also at 3-3, but they're at ninth because all of their wins have come in 5 sets, so they only have 6 points. Whereas you have Cuneo, at 2-5 and 8 points. Milano at 3-2 with 7 points. Padova in 10th, 2-4 with 6 points. Monza at 1-5 with 4 points, and Gotazzolina, TGE. Still winless and only having gone to 5-1 so far, so they only have 1 point. So we'll see if TGE can pull out a little bit of mid-season or end-season magic like they did last year to be able to stay alive. Now, staying in Italy, we are going to head over to the Lega Volley Femminile, where we had 2 big matchups. We had 1 versus 2, Conegliano against Scandici on Sunday. And then we also had 3 versus 4, Milano against Novara on Saturday. And that was an absolute banger. And it was also a record-setting match with a crowd of 12,667. And I will say, Volleyball World Italia made a post about it, and you've got Poles in the chat being like, "Oh, Volleyball World doesn't care about Poland. They're here talking about this crowd." Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It's Volleyball World Italia. Of course they're going to be talking about the crowd. And the reason why there's no Volleyball World Poland is because Polstat won't let Volleyball World post PlusLiga clips. Right? That's why you don't see anything other than coming from Polstat, because Polstat will not allow it. So once again, people who don't know anything are just out there complaining, and it's a little bit useless. But the match between Novara and Milano was an absolute banger. You had 2 of the best teams in the league going toe-to-toe. And you know what? It looked like it was going to be a Novara sweep at first. They took the first 2, 25-20, and then 27-25. Milano stormed back in the third and fourth with a couple of 25-17 results, and then Novara got the ship together, rightened the ship in the fifth, and took it 15-11. And it was a really big momentum match. And in the first, it just seemed like Milano was all over the place. They made 7 hitting errors overall as a team. And another opinion in the chat is saying that this was the match of the week. And I fully agree. I think this is one of the matches of the year, to be perfectly honest. It was back and forth. In the first, Milano looked good, but they were making a lot of errors. 7 hitting errors in the first for the quote-unquote home team in this one, which was really tough for Paolo Agonu. But early on, you had Lanier, Agonu, and Piva all cooking, except on the other side of the net, you also had the other team cooking all together as well. And we've kind of seen this trend, unfortunately, with Taylor Mims for Novara, where she's really good in the first and the second, and she starts to peter off in the third. And that's exactly what we saw in this match. And she was scoring early on, right? And then she ended up getting subbed out for Britt Herbots in the fourth set. Like, Mims started the fourth, the first, second, third, and fourth. And I think, she scored 3 points in the second, 3 points in the third, and was able to get and then was kind of kept off the score sheet after that. Whereas Britt Herbots coming off the bench was outstanding. In the fourth and fifth combined, she was 12 for 18. She was 6 for, 6 for, 8. Yeah, she was 8 for 9 in the fourth, and then it had another 4 points in the fifth. And it really came down to two things: A, Milano's serving, and two, Novara's passing. Because Novara is the best passing team in the league, and when they're able to pass the ball well, it opens things up for their middles, right? It opens things up for now Bayerns and Bonifacio. And that's exactly what we saw. Now, Novara didn't pass great in the first, only 36% perfect, but they passed 50% perfect in the second and in the fifth. And those were the other two sets that they won. The first, it all came down to Milano's errors, right? They made 7 of their 12 errors in the first. And it was really a back and forth match. First and second for Novara, third and fourth for Milano, and in the fifth, it really came down to Novara's defense, Novara's passing, because then they were able to just spread that ball all over the place. They were able to get Bonifacio and Bayerns involved in the offense, and Herbots was really, really good. And yeah, I agree. K Ding 92. The MVP was given to Herbots, and that was silly. It was given to Ishikawa, and I thought that was silly. Now, I think she led the team in scoring in this one. No, yeah, like she had 13 and passed really well. But yeah, offensively, she was not great, and Herbots was outstanding in the second half of the match. But in the fifth set, there was a few difference makers. First and foremost, the blocking for Novara disappeared. Novara had 4 blocks, the blocking for Milano disappeared. Milano had 9 of their 11 blocks in the third and the fourth. 4 in the third, 5 in the fourth, and then they only had 1 in the first. And then also Lanier and Piva were all of a sudden unable to score for Milano. Now, Milano overall was led by Paolo Gono, as expected. She was 25 for 57 with 2 blocks and 4 aces. I think she had 4 aces in the fourth set alone, and it really helped them dominate. But Lanier and Piva, both of which were really struggling to score in the fifth set. And it was really like Novara's team defense was really, really good in that fifth set. And that's why they were able to be able to pull it out completely. So big win for Milano as they continue to be a little bit up and down. It's been a little surprising from them. I won't lie. We kind of see them play great at some times and not so good at others, but they can continue to be up there. Because of this win, they have now jumped up to third, and Novara has jumped down into fifth. The other match to talk about in the Lega Volley Femminili was the other 1 versus 2 match, and this one was a lot less interesting. Overall, the only reason, in my opinion, that Scandicci won this match won a set is because Conegliano made errors in the second set, right? They made 8 unforced hitting errors all match long. 4 of those came in the second. So half of their hitting errors came in the second set. And it's really hard to play against Conegliano when they are this good and this dominant. 4 different players in double digits. Hawk had 22. Fatoumata Silla had 18. She was fantastic. 14 for Gabi Gumarez, and she started off the year a little slowly, but 13 for 25 with only 2 errors overall. Fantastic match by Gabi. And then another 12 by Christina Kirikella. 9 for 15 down the middle with 3 blocks. And for Scandicci, this one was a tough one because Antropova did not have a great match. She was 12 for 37 overall, which is not so great. She had a 1.62 efficiency, so about a 16% efficiency. And you need Antropova to show up in these big matches. You need her to show up in these big moments And that's what makes Conegliano so good, is that they just have the ability to shut down some of the best hitters in the world, and they just have the ability to shut down some of the best players in the world. And I think after that loss to Milano, they've really started to pick things up. Once again, this one was an entertaining one for 3 sets, right? It was 25-22 for Conegliano, 25-23 for Scandicci, 25-22 for Conegliano once again. And then they just kind of got on the horse in the fourth. They were up 16-11, then 21-13, ended up winning it 25-16, as it was just wave after wave after wave of attacking. And I think Fatoumata Sylla, now she was a workhorse in this match. She got 27 targets in serve receive. She was 56% positive, 37% perfect, 18 for 42. She actually had the most attempts on the team and the most kills as well. Hawk was 16 for 38 with 3 blocks and 3 aces all around. But I'm really starting to wonder if, Sylla started, if you would, on the depth chart at the beginning of the season, down at the bottom, down probably in the fourth position for Conegliano. And now I kind of think that she'd be in the 2nd position. It's going to be very interesting to see if they go back to Zhu Ting when she comes back from the Chinese national team season, or if they're going to stick with Fatoumata Sylla. She is just so dynamic offensively and can score and can handle a lot of volume. And now more and more, she's showing that she can, pass the ball and play defense. And there's a few moments where, she's making big plays and making a big dig. And then you have the entirety of Conegliano turn and point to her. Like, you can tell that she's been working on it, and they're really valuing her in those situations. So big ups to Fatoumata Sylla. Love the way that she's been playing as of late, and I'm going to keep an eye on it because I think she could continue to be the starting one of the starting outsides for this Conegliano team. A few other results from around the Lega Volley Femminile. It was, other than that, I would say it was a pretty normal weekend. You had Busto taking a 3-0 win over Firenze, and it was a really good match from, of course, Abosa. She continues to dominate, but also Melanie Parra. Melanie Parra had 18 in this match, going 16 for 40. So good job from the product out of TCU. She led her team in scoring. You also have Bergamo, finally with their 2nd win of the season, a 3-dong over Monviso. Really well done by Bergamo. And Davis Skiba for Monviso was the only player in double digits with 10 points. Then you had Kendall Kipp leading the way with 14. She was 11 for 30 with a block and 2 aces. And Cese Montalvo continues to struggle, only 7 for 21 in this match. Chieri picked up a 3-dong over Cuneo. And, I mean, this one was to be expected. Cuneo, despite getting that early season win over Scandicci, has really struggled. Binto Diop had 16. Massa Puccelli had 10. I don't actually know if that's how you pronounce her name, but that's what I'm going to go with right now. If there's any Slovenians who can tell me how to actually pronounce her name, that would be fantastic. Whereas, Chieri, after getting thoroughly handled by Scandicci last week, really went back to business. 19 for Annette Nemeth, 13 for Nervini, and 13 for Laura Kunzler. You also had Valafolia getting a 3-1 win over Macerata. And Valafolia, that was a big win because Macerata has, worked their way into a playoff spot. Erblira, Bici, the Albanian, 27 points in just 4 sets of play, and she was 26 for 49 in this match. Also, Loveth Omarui had 17 in a big match for Valafolia. And then finally, Consolini getting a big match, getting a big win over Perugia. And Perugia is a team that has kind of been flying as of late. They had won 2 straight, gotten some big wins. They got a reverse sweep to last week and another big win the week before. But once again, they Stark Shauna Williams. She was not good. 0 for 6 in 2 sets of play, and then went to Nika Markovic, who had 21, but Elena Piranelli only with 10, while Beatrice Cardini continues with 18. And for Consolini, it was Anna Piovesan. No, never really heard of her before. So good ups there by Consolini. Really taking advantage of the 17 attack errors from Perugia in this one. 17 attack errors is absolutely huge. And then also 10 blocks overall from Consolini. And once again, if you didn't see my Friday show, Consolini is going to be getting Zhuang Yushan out of China as well too. So that will be huge for Consolini in their bid to not get relegated. Now, looking at the standings here in the Lega Volley Femminile, of course, Conegliano continues to be perfect at 11-0, 32 points. Scandici in second at 9-2, 25 points. Milano moves into third at 7-4, 23 points. Chieri with the win also moves into fourth at 7-3, 20 points. Tied in fourth is Novara, 7-3 with 20 points. You've got Firenze. After that, all the teams are under 500. Firenze, 4-6, 13. Valafolia also tied in sixth at 4-6 and 13. You've got Busto, who's at 4-6 with 12. Cuneo at 4-6 with 11. Macerata at 3-7 with 11. Perugia at 4-6 with 10. Monviso at 4-7 with 10. Bergamo at 2-8 with 9, and then Consolini at 2-8 with 7. So very, very interesting. You've got the first top 5 teams in the Lega Volley Femminile from Conegliano to Novara. We're going to keep Chieri in them there for now. We'll see how they can do kind of in the second half of the season. And then you have the bottom half teams from 6th all the way to 14th with Firenze. Now, I do think that there's going to be a bit of a difference. I honestly think that like Firenze, Valfolia, Busto, and Busto are those going to be those other playoff teams, but we'll see how if Cuneo can get their ship back going again, if Macerata can keep things going as they've been really good at early season. The same thing with Perugia as well. And can't also count out Bergamo. If Seste Montalvo can get her offense going and they can have Kip and Montalvo at the same time, things could be dangerous over there. So very interesting so far in the Lega Volley Femminile. As we move on now, we will be moving on and continuing things in Turkey because the Sultanar Ligi has now returned after the Islamic games, the Islamic friendship games. I honestly don't know what was happening. I'm pretty sure Turkey won it. Wasn't really anything on my radar, but we did have a big match in week number 1 with Fenerbahce taking on Exacerbasi, and this one was all Fenerbahce in this one, and it really comes down to Exacerbasi not having that secondary scoring after Magdalena Stisiak. Stisiak was great. She had 25 points. She was 23 for 47 with a 40% efficiency. But then when your other big player is Ebra Karakurt, and Karakurt is going 9 for 41 with a minus 5% efficiency, with 3 blocks and an ace, that's kind of where you're struggling, and it's especially struggling when, she's getting really targeted on serve receive and only passing 32% positive and 16% perfect. But yeah, that secondary scoring for Exacerbasi is not being great. They have Yaprak Erkek in that P2 position, and she was all right. She was 7 for 18, but only had a 28% efficiency. So they need to find that secondary and tertiary scoring, and they need to pass the ball a little bit better. The only set that they won is because Simjakosh got 10 targets and passed 60% positive and 50% perfect. So they are able to open things up because Exacerbasi is actually really strong down the middle, right? They have, why am I blanking on her name? The Trinidadian one, yeah. Sinead Jack Casal down the middle, but she did not have a good offensive day, 1 for 7. Then Dana Retke, also 2 for 8 with a 0% efficiency. So not so great for Exacerbasi, and that's not going to look good when you're playing against a Fenerbahce team who has 3 players in double digits. And it's going to be tough to win when Hande Baladin is scoring 15 points. She was 13 for 26 in this one. Fedoritseva, 16 for 38 for 19 points. And of course, Melissa Vargas one of the best opposites in the world. She was 22 for 51, as Fenerbahce continues to be one of the league leaders. Both Fenerbahce and Vakifbank sitting in first place. Exact same record, 5-0, exact same points, 15 points, and exact same set scores at 15-2. So they have really established themselves as the top two teams in the Sultanar Ligi this year in Turkey. And some of the other results here that we're seeing in Turkey, Göztepe got 3-donged by THY. 25-22, 25-19, 25-19. Zarenspor got a really nice win over Aras Kargo, 25-20, 25-22, 25-19. Another 3-dong. You have Galatasaray taking on the team that I cannot pronounce, 25-22, 25-15, 25-19. Niloufer continues to be up there in the Sultanar Ligi as well. They're currently sitting in sixth place behind Zarenspor with a 3-dong over Besiktas. And then Aydin got 3-donged by Vakifbank, 25-20, 25-20, and 25-19. And Vakifbank in first, Fenerbahce in second, Galatasaray in third, Eczacıbaşı in fourth. That's kind of what we would expect. I think Zarenspor would like to be in that elite group, and then they are technically tied for third, along with for fourth with Eczacıbaşı and I guess there's a group of teams there at 3-2. Eczacıbaşı, Zarenspor, and Niloufer are all 3-2 with 9 points, and then THY at 3-2 as well with 8 points. So glad to have the Sultanar Ligi back in action so far to watch this season. It's fun. One of the best leagues in the world. Still kicking and still going. Moving on from Turkey to Poland now, we're going to be touching on the Polish PlusLiga, and man, was it ever a fun week just a fun weekend in the Polish PlusLiga, as you only had matches on Saturday and Sunday, but a bunch of bangers. And we're going to start with the first match that I want to talk about, was yesterday's matchup between, arguably, at the beginning of the week, and last week I would have said that it was between the best two teams in the league, but Resovia proved that they are the cream of the crop right now in the PlusLiga, remaining undefeated and pulling off the reverse sweep on Lublin, who are now in a 3-game slide. Lublin has really struggled. You know, they started their year so well, winning 3 matches in a row, and then they lost to Skra Belchatov early on last week. They lost to Zawiercie earlier on this week, and then lost to Resovia in this match, losing 2 straight 5-setters after having won the Polish Super Cup. And this one was a very interesting match. Lublin went up 2-0, right? Lublin looked like they were able to bounce back nicely and kind of get things going, but Resovia ended up using the entirety of their roster. They used every single guy that they had in this one. They started with Vashina and Shalpuk on the outside. Vashina got the yank after the second set, and then, in the first set, and they went with Luatsi. Luatsi was pretty good with 10 points. And then in the second set, they brought out Shalpuk. Shalpuk ended up being 0 for 5 with a -800 efficiency. Not great for a guy who's been really cooking this year. And then they brought in Clement Chebul, who was very good as well, 13. But it was really all about Karol Butryn and Danny Demyanenko. Butryn was outstanding, 25 for 41 in this match. He also had 2 blocks for a match-high 27 points. And then Danny Demyanenko, the eventual MVP, he was 13 for 15 in attacking, also 3 blocks, leading his teams in blocks, and with 3 touches. And Demyanenko has settled in really, really well. I really love, I know I'm kind of like a broken record about this, but he just seems to be Marcinyanos' favorite targets. And he's so dynamic and has just been so efficient on this season. 16 points in this one. He ended up getting the MVP. Oh, I thought I had that one in there. Maybe I deleted it. But yeah, great job there by Danny Demyanenko. And this one was an interesting match all around, because even though, like, Lublin is not the best passing team, we kind of know this, right? They're not the best passing team. And I thought Leon did an all right job in third of serve receive. He had 30 targets, passed 37%, but Leon struggled offensively. Really struggled offensively. He was 12 for 39 with just a .100, a .100, a 10% efficiency in this match. And yeah, like, he was really not great. Henno Hiller continued his really good offensive week, though, going 13 for 27 with a team, or not a team high, but with 15 points. And Kevin Sosek, after being very bad against Zawiercie, bounced back 13-26. And, once Resovia made those changes, it really just seemed like Lublin didn't have much to answer from. I mean, they're really good at the net. They had 17 blocks, and they also touched 15 blocks and also touched another 17. But offensively, they just weren't able to get it going, only hitting a 30% efficiency as a team. And, they're giving so much volume to Leon, and he really wasn't able to convert in this one. So Lublin continues with their 3-match slide, going from 3-0 in the league to now 3-3. And it's just been really unpredictable in the PlusLiga this year. And that's why, to me, the PlusLiga is the most entertaining league that we have in volleyball right now. The next match that I wanted to talk about, I may not have, let's just make sure I have the stats up here so I can actually know what I'm talking about. But, Zawiercie got that really big 5-set win over Lublin on Wednesday, and then they had to turn around and play the very next match in the league on Friday. So they only had a couple of days of rest in between. And to me, JSW not only took advantage, but they took advantage by playing their best match of the season. Like, for Zawiercie, it looked like Bart Bolange was very, very tired. He ended up getting the yank. He was 4 for 8 with just a 25% efficiency, 6 points through 2 sets. And they brought in Kyle Ensing, late into the second set, and then they never looked back, did Zawiercie. And Kyle Ensing with, one of his best match of the season, no doubt about it. He ended with 16 points, 12 for 28. And then you also had Aaron Russell going 17 for 32 for 19 points and a 40% efficiency. But to me, it was really all about, you also had Kwolek, who wasn't great in this match, 4 for 14, and ended up getting yanked after during the third. But to me, it was all about how JSW was playing. They had one of their best matches of the season. All 5 of their attackers were in double digits. It was huge. They were really strong down the middle. Anton Brema continues to be really dynamic for this team. He led his team with 16 points. He was 10 for 18 with 2 blocks and 4 aces. Now, he did miss 9 serves. He only, he aced 4, missed 9, and only put in 8, only had an 18 serves altogether. But if you're going to miss 9, you might as well get 4 aces on the top. But Lukas Usovic, 9 for 9 in attacking and 3 blocks overall, leading his teams in blocks. So combined down the middle, 19 for 27. And that makes it even more impressive when you see the fact that Toniuti only had 40% positive passing and 11% perfect. So he was really running that offense and really giving it to his middles when it mattered. Usovic, once again, 9 for 9 in attack. That is massive. A landy line for him. 12 points overall on only 9 attempts. But then you also have Brema, as I said, going 16. Nick Schergen continues his fantastic year at 11 for 25. Miran Kujundžić had his best match of the year as well, finally getting the start, going 14 for 29 with a 41% efficiency and getting 15 points. Lukas Kaczmarek even showed some glimpses of former Lucas Kaczmarek as well, going 11 for 25 for 13 points. And it's just going to be tough for playing against GSW when they are spreading out their offense in this way. So that is a really good win for them against a Zawiercie team who looked fantastic against Lublin on Wednesday. And to me, they just looked a little tired in this one. Not any excuses as well, but when two of your best players are they didn't have much pop in them. They didn't look like they really had it. I mean, once again, Zawiercie made those subs in the second, bringing in Ensing. Ensing came in and immediately served some aces. He had 4 aces on the day overall. But JSW overall was just better in this match. They ended up winning it in the long run and taking it and being able to get a good win over a pretty strong Zawiercie team. Now, moving on, continuing in the PlusLiga, I forgot to move on to the slide for that one. So there you go. There's the scores for JSW against Zawiercie. And now 2 teams going in completely opposite directions here as Olsztyn 3 dongs Norwid Częstochowa. And man, we're going to start on the Olsztyn side of things because I think this might be one of my more impressive teams this year. They have really been so good. I honestly think that Johannes Tila has been one of the best pickups this offseason. And this team didn't have a huge efficiency in this match, only 37%, but just the way that he runs the offense just really opens things up. Keeps things going, and really gives some big opportunities. Now, you had Moritz Karlitzek continuing to just be dominant this year. 13 for 23 with a 34% efficiency. You also had Pavel Halaba at 6 for 14 with a 42% efficiency. He had no errors on the day. And then just spreading the offense all around. Hadrava, 9 points, 8 for 18, 16% efficiency. I'd love to see Arthur Schwartz, but we're still not getting him. Oh, well. Olsztyn, 9 aces and only 11 errors. Just really nice high serving efficiency for Olsztyn right now. And they're actually in second place because they've won 5 in a row. And honestly, I think it could be 6 in a row because in my opinion, they should have won that season opener against JSW. So Olsztyn just playing some really good volleyball all around, also making 30 digs, 12 blocks, 9 aces, and going 39 for 74 as a team. But on the other side of the net, it might be the time to start hitting the panic button for Norwid Częstochowa. It really might be. This is a team that hit 26% efficiency in this match, really struggling to score. And I know a lot of people in the Discord want to blame it on DeCecco. And while the passing definitely doesn't help for DeCecco, only 28% positive and 16% perfect. And we know DeCecco is not the most mobile guy out there. He's not a guy that's going to really be able to run a marathon like a Micah Christensen or a Tila or a Gianelli or a Paolo Porro or, any of these other elite guys. He's a little bit older. There's a reason we call him DeChungus. He's a little bit bigger, but when he has that ball in his hands, he's able to work magic. And we just really haven't seen him be able to do that this year, mostly because the passing just isn't there. Now, the passing isn't there, but then you also have your captain in Milad Abadapur. He's passing 28% positive, which to me is just not good enough from Abadapur, but also going 5 for 21, hitting 24% with a 0% efficiency. Yikes. A lot of serving pressure on the young Jakub Kiros as well. Offensively, he was all right, just 6 for 3, but then passing 14% positive on 21 targets. He also got aced 5 times. They brought in Bart Lipinski halfway through the second. Offensively, he was decent, 5 for 8, but passing, actually, he was all right as well. 43% positive, 21% perfect. But I just need to see more out of Abadapur. I really do. And how old is Abadapur? Actually, let's look that up right now. Abadapur Volleybox. Let's see. Oh, he's only 32? He's younger than I am. Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. I cannot I cannot let him off the hook then. I thought he was way older than that. I thought he was over the hill. But that has not been the case, and wow, that is disappointing. So Norwich Czestochowa really has to figure some things out, because they have only managed one win this season, and this 3-dong. I thought it was going to be a good matchup, two of the best setters maybe in this league, and we really haven't seen it. It's too bad. Like, they were able to do it with 3 different setters last year. Of course, Quinn Isaacson was mostly the guy, but yeah, DeCecco and company over there for Norwich Czestochowa just not getting the job done. But speaking of Quinn Isaacson and Zaksa, they continue to improve this year. That is 2 big wins in a row for Zaksa, first taking down JSW last week, and now this week taking down Barkam Lviv. And now Lviv, to me, is a very good team. I actually really like this team. As I've said before, as I said earlier, like in last week's, on Friday's show, this is a team that has good swingers kind of all over the place. They've got some good guys down the middle. So this is a really nice 5-set win for Zaksa. They won the first 25-19. Lviv answered 25-21. It was back to Zaksa at 25-15, back to Lviv at 25-23, and then Zaksa ended up taking it 15-6, and they've really started to figure out that connection with the outsides, and a 45% efficiency overall. This team only made 4 unforced errors over the course of 5 sets, and that's huge. That is absolutely huge for Zaksa. Kamil Rychlicki led the way with 18 points. This was another team that had 4 guys in double digits. Rychlicki, 18. He was 16 for 28. Rafael Shamura, 16. He was 16 for 30 with a 40% efficiency. You also had Simon Jakubczak, 17 points. He was 9 for 15 with 5 blocks and 3 aces. Just big numbers down the middle. He led in break points with 9 and was a plus 13 in this match. And then you also had Igor Grabelny, 12 for 18 with a 55% efficiency. So Zaksa, 2 wins in a row, and a really, really nice win over this really good Lviv team. And it actually helped them bunny hop Lviv and kind of slot themselves in to that 8th and final playoff spot. I know it's early to be talking about playoffs, but still, they should always be on their mind. This was a Vasil Tupci game for Lviv. He had 22 points. He was 17 for 29. And then it was really the outsides that struggled in this match. 10 for 27 for Lorenzo Pope. And then 11 for 29 with just a 6% efficiency from Ilya Kovalov. Really not so great down the stretch from the Ukrainian and the Australian. So those 2 guys are going to be able to figure some things out. It would be a lot better. Sorry, once again, forgot to change the slide for that one for all of those of you watching on video. Now, moving forward, I don't think there's that many other matches that I didn't talk about. I guess the other 2 matches that happened on Sunday. Skra got a 3-0 win over Helm. Not much to talk about there, but Warszawa back into the win column with a good 3-0 win over Gdansk. And Gdansk was a team that I thought could be really dangerous this year, and we've kind of seen some flashes, but not so much at the same time. For Warszawa, Bednorz was back into his winning ways. He was 15 for 27. You had Yuri Semeniuk as well, going 9 for 11 down the middle. Kevin Thiele was much better. Tsili with 10 for 17 in attack, also with 11 points. And Gdansk really struggled to score in this one. They had a 31% efficiency. They made 9 unforced errors, 5 for Alexei Nasevich. Nasevich was 9 for 23 with just an 8% efficiency for 10 points. Christian Brand as well, 12 for 23 for 13 points. And Piotr Orchik, 11 for 27 with a 52% efficiency, but just 11 points for him. So Warszawa back into the win column in this match. As we see here, the standings in the PlusLiga. Olsztyn currently sitting in first place with a 5-1 record. They have 15 points. Zawiercie in second, despite that loss recently. They have a 5-2 record with 15 points. Of course, Resovia, currently undefeated, 5-0 with 13 points. Skra Belchatov, 4-1 with 12. Projekt Warszawa with that latest win. They had lost 2 in a row, so now they are up to 4-2 with 12 points. Lublin, now on this 3-game slide, down to 3-3 in 6th with 10 points. Gdansk in 7th, 3-3 as well with 8 points. GSW Shemskia at 3-2 in 8th, and then with 7 points. And sorry, Zaksa actually is in 9th. They're not in that final playoff spot at 2-3 and 7 points. Barkham in 10th, 2-3 with 7 points. Norvid in 11th, 1-4 with 3. Helm in 12th, 1-4 and 2. Kuprum still 0-5 with 2 points. And Sleps Suwałki 0-5 with just 1 point as well. Grab my water bottle here real quick. I'm getting a little parched. So, upcoming this week, we've got a few other big games tomorrow. Norvid's going to have a chance to get a win on the board, taking on Helm. You've also got Zawiercie taking on Olsztyn, number 1 against number 2 in the standing. So that will be a really big match. On Wednesday, we got a couple of big matches as well, with JSW taking on Lublin in the early match at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time / 11:30 a.m. North America Eastern Time. And then later on that night, Resovia taking on Zaksa. Always a good matchup there. So Wednesday, definitely a must-watch in the PlusLiga. And then you have Skra taking on Norvid. So Norvid with a big match this week, having to play Tuesday and Friday. And we'll see how Skra can do. Skra has been cooking pretty good. 4-1 so far without Alan Souza as well. It's pretty interesting. Very, very interesting for Skra Belchatov. Okay. Yeah, that's what we have for the PlusLiga this week. Now moving from Poland to their next door neighbors in Germany. One of the undefeated teams is now done in the German Bundesliga as third place Gießen, takes down previously undefeated Düren, and Düren now moves into second spot. And just looking here, did not watch this game, but Lars Midge, 22 points. Mark Rura with 27 points for Gießen. Robin Baghdadi, 20 for 29 for Düren. No errors with 23 points overall. Jordan Canham got blocked 7 times, unfortunately, as the Navan Cannon, or also otherwise known as the General, going 12 for 33 in this match. You know that if his numbers are a little bit better, they probably pick up the win. And then Sieb Korenbleck with 15 points as well, so for Düren. So Düren moves down into second spot in the Bundesliga. Some other results to look at here in the Bundesliga. Ludwigsburg got a 3-dong over Mitteldeutschland. The Volley Goats, gotta love that name. VCO Berlin got a nice win over Dachau. Berlin jumps back into the win column with a win over Freiburg. Karlsruhe, who is now in 4th, I believe, with a win over Haching. There was a sick, if you want to go check it out, I believe it's in my stories, John Obi, the Canadian opposite, got a double headshot against Haching in this one. And then Netzhoppers also beat Dachau 3-0. So not a great week for Dachau as we look here at the standings. Lüneburg sits alone in first place at 7-0, and they have a big matchup this upcoming weekend against Düren on Saturday, I believe, the 22nd. Or maybe that's Sunday. I can't really remember. So big to watch. Lüneburg in first, Düren in second, Gießen in third, Ludwigsburg in fourth, Karlsruhe in fifth, Freiburg in sixth, Berlin in seventh, Friedrichshafen in eighth. When have we ever said that before, eh? If you're a fan of the Bundesliga, that's been absolutely wild. Netzhoppers in 9th, Hersching in 10th, Mitteldeutschland in 11th, Dachau in 12th, Haching Munich in 13th, VCO Berlin in 14th, and Warnemünde in 15th, still winless with 0 points. And if you didn't hear my show on Friday, I would definitely encourage you to go watch the whether it's the DIN streams or the Spontent streams on Twitch. I know the Duren versus Lundberg match is going to be free on Twitch this weekend, and the quality is so good. I don't understand how we can have such good quality when watching the Bundesliga on Twitch, and yet we get the garbage quality that we get from the Italian League when we have to watch it on VBTV. The Italian League needs to be better. No more of this 720, 24p bullcrap. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. They need to be better, and they need to take a page out of the Bundesliga's book, no doubt about it. Now, we're going to finish things off by talking a little bit about Japan. Once again, it's really tough for me to watch the Japanese league mostly because it's on in the middle of the night for me. So we're just going to go over some of the results. Once again, I didn't watch any of these matches, so I can't really tell you kind of what's been happening so far this year. But there was a really big matchup this week between JTEC Sting and Osaka Blution. Blution, I do believe, ended up taking both matches. They took the first match on Saturday 3-1 and then took the second match on Sunday 3-2. The first match, oh, great. There's no stats whatsoever from this match. So yeah. Oh wait, yes there is. I apologize. It looks like DeFalco had 16 for JTEC coming in off the bench. Boyer, man, 2 for 16. Yikes. Stefan Boyer not having a good run of things so far in Japan. They went back to DeFalco. He was 14 for 26. Same thing with Lucarelli. 10 for 27 for JTEC, and Osaka Blution. 18 for Yuji Nishida, but man, Miguel Lopez, 27 points. He was 25 for 40. He had 5 errors and still had a 50% efficiency. That's how damn good he was in this match for Blution. And then at match number 2, they decided to go back to DeFalco, and he had 23 points, and Boyer was much better. DeFalco was 16 for 35 with 4 blocks and 3 aces. Boyer, 24 for 43 with 26 points, but still, it wasn't enough as Blution took the match in 5. Lopez had 23. Kaiuto had 14, and Yuji Nishida had 13. And Antoine Brizois with 8 points. 4 aces, 3 for 4 in attacking, and a block as well. So people in the chat saying right now, Luke Dory, not gonna lie, the season feels less fun to watch, less parity now. Sunbirds, Tokugawa, and Sikita feels like they need 3 foreigners to get more setters into the league. Victor saying SV League doesn't have a good level to watch, honestly, and that's too bad. That is really too bad, because I thought last year the SV League was actually kind of interesting to watch. And I do believe that they will be moving to 3 foreigners in the future. Some other results from Saturday: Nagano picking up a nice win over Torre. Matt Neves, the Canadian, with 19 points. He was 18 for 28. Yuji Kudo, 10 for 20 with 13 points. And Roque. Is that Roque? No, I always get confused as to who's on which team. Had 10 points, 9 for 14. Whereas Torre, Kirill Kretz, continues to be really good. 18 for 32 for 23 points, but Cardenas, 5 for 11 in this match. He ended up getting subbed out so that they could play Taylor Averill. Taylor Averill was 2 for 2 in this match. But I do believe if you go to Sunday's score, that's right, Torre was able to win in match number 2 in 5 in this one. Let's see who was scoring for. Let's see if we had a good. Oh, I think we actually may have had. No, we didn't have. We still didn't have Taylor Averill in this match. Oh, that's so frustrating. Why does he keep on getting signed by teams with foreigner issues? Matt Neves had 19. Oscar had 18. Kudo had 15, but they couldn't beat Kirill Kretz's 29 points as Cardenas was way better in this match with 16 points. He was 15 for 16. Osaka took down Sakai Blazers. As expected, Osaka Suntory Sunbirds. They got so many team names over there. And just going to check in to see how Cooper Robinson did for Hiroshima Thunders, as they got a pair of wins, as I believe. Yeah, they got a couple of 3-dongs over Hokkaido. 15 points for Cooper Robinson in match number 1 in the 3-dong. And looks like another 15 for Cooper Robinson. Yeah, another 15 for Cooper Robinson in another 3-dong. So 30 combined points for Cooper Robinson over the course of the weekend. There's talks of SV League adding 4 more teams doing East versus West Division. They also don't have relegation right now. Oh, 4 teams would be a lot. 14 teams? I guess that would make the 48 games actually like make sense, because right now they're playing. Oh no, it still wouldn't. I don't. Yeah, because right now they have 10 teams, so you're playing 9, and you're playing a 48 game season. So you're just like making up a bunch of games there. You're not playing every team equally. Naturalismo, I don't like leagues that are dependent on foreigners to get attention. SV League and Everett League are good examples. I would tend to agree. I think those are 2 different scenarios. Actually, I guess you could say that some of the best players in Japan aren't playing in the SV League. Like you have Ishikawa and Otsuka, who are both in the Lega Volley. In the Everett League, it's kind of the same thing. You've got guys like Manderacha and Efi Byram who are in the Lega Volley as well. But there's a reason why that the best leagues in the world are Italy and Poland and Russia, where the leagues are strong in their own because of the quality of the athletes. And now I do think that Japan has quality athletes and is a good league overall, but there's just some physical differences there, especially like that's why a guy like Kirill Kretz, who can come in and can't even start really in the Russian league, and is brought in supposedly to be the backup and to take the reins from Dmitry Murzerski and Zenit Kazan, has to go to the Japanese league and start to lighten it up. But I will like to. It will be very interesting once they add that 3rd foreigner spot, because then that's going to change a lot of things for the Japanese league in the long run. But other than that, I think that is today's episode. That is today's show. Really appreciate you all jumping in. I'm going to just see real quick what are some of the matches to look forward to this week. On Tuesday, I already said those PlusLiga matches. You got Helm against Norvid, so maybe they're going to be able to get a win there. And then Olsten versus Zawiercie, 1 versus 2. So that one actually should be an interesting one. You've also got Champions League qualifying keeping going. That is going to be round 3 for the men. The final round of qualifying going on Wednesday. You've got Radniki against Ljubljana and Guaguas against Sofia. Guaguas against Sofia, I think, should be a really, really good one. A really good match. Also got a couple of matches in Germany. In the Lega Volley, we're going to have a makeup match from a few weeks ago between Milano and Cotazzolina, which should be decent. Also, you have Conegliano against Busso and Scandici against Monviso. And then Poland, also a couple of great matches. Jastrzębskie against Lublin and Resovia against Zaksa. So those might be some must-watch matches on on Wednesday. Not too much going on Friday, unless you want to go watch the French League, Paris taking on Nice. And then sorry, that was Thursday. Friday, the 21st, is actually Duren versus Lüneburg at 1 p.m. So you know that I'm going to be tuning in to that one because I think it's going to be spicy, and there's got a bunch of Canadians in those matches too. So make sure you check those out, guys. I think it's going to be a very fun week of volleyball. If you haven't been a part of it yet, come and join the Volleyball Source Discord. And yeah, we will see you on Friday. Hope you guys have a great week and have a good one. Bye.